welcome you back to what we call Barstool Banter. Every Thursday night we're at a different recovery sports grill, and tonight we come to you here in Colonie. We're on Facebook, and you can watch the interview that I'm going to do with James Allen on Facebook. You can watch your rants on Facebook as well, and you can go on to our webpage at foxsports980.com and see the interview with Big Game James Allen and to see your rants as well. We had 4 ranters sign up. We can have as many as 10. Ryan Murray, Dominic DePrucio are out and about. Come on up, have some fun with us. That'll come your way in the next segment. But our on-site special guest tonight hails from the Times-Union. He's been covering the high school sports for a very long time. Nobody does it better than Big Game James Allen from the Times-Union. He joins us here tonight. Big Game, good to see you.
Good to see you, Roger.
It's kind of quiet time of the year for you.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing going on for me.
Nothing going on, Big Game. No big games for you to cover. Let's start with, before we dive into some of the teams you think will make a serious run here to state championships, how many people here tonight happen to either be in attendance for the CBA Troy game, the AA final on Monday night, or saw the highlights or read the accounts about it? There was a controversial finish that people are still buzzing about it. What was your take, Big Game, on how that game ended and then the overtime win by the brothers of CBA?
Well, Roger, I mean, I don't think there was any question that the ending of the game, the regulation, and the technical foul that was called was very unfortunate. I thought it was unnecessary. There was obviously controversy whether they were going to call a foul or whether they were not going to call a foul. The whistle blew at the end of regulation. There was contact between Chaslot from CBA and Diley Holt from Troy. Whether the foul occurred before the end of regulation, the two officials met in midcourt. It looked like they were going to call a foul, and they waved it off. Troy coach Rich Hurley kind of ran out of the coach's box and was upset because he thought they were going to call a foul. But the official took him back, brought him back to his bench, and it looked like everything was all done. But the one official that came in and said time had expired basically stood by the Troy bench and eventually calls a technical foul. CBA gets the ball, they get 2 foul shots, and they get possession of the ball. After that, it's basically, when Chaslot hits a 3, it's a 5-point play within 15 seconds of the start of overtime. Troy just couldn't recover from that. I thought in that situation, knowing how the officials are both veterans of the area, knowing they understand the situation, you can't call a technical foul on that spot.
No, it was a bad technical foul at that time, at that point in the game, especially when Rich Hurley said that there was no foul language used. He did run out on the court, but there was no foul language used. He just wanted an explanation.
And if they were going to give a technical foul for him running on the court, he would have gotten it initially. He didn't get it. There was a good 15 seconds after the whistle, after they had determined that no time was on, he had gone back to his bench. He started to talk to his players to get ready for overtime. The officials stood not even 10 feet from their bench, looked at their bench, and then called a technical foul. I thought that was very inappropriate. Unfortunately, it cast kind of a shadow over what was a great performance by Troy and certainly a great ending for CBA. They still scored the first 11 points of overtime. They deserve the credit. They won 4 titles in a row. It's a great performance by them, but unfortunately, a lot of people are going to remember that game for the controversy at the end of regulation.
They will, and such a bang-bang play. I don't know, sitting here right now, how much time was on that clock. I don't know if they got that call right or not. I think it was that close.
It's a situation where I don't have a problem with them, whether even if it was 2.2 seconds or whatever you look at the tape over and over again. It's 75 feet away from the basket. Was he going to get a shot up? No, probably not.
So let's go to overtime.
I don't have a problem with them saying okay. But the thing is, where the officials made their mistake, Roger, was really what they had to do there. It's just go to the midcourt, call Dave Domel, call Rich Hurley over and say, look, this is what we're going to call. We're going to go to overtime. There was contact. We're not sure. They don't have the benefit of watching the television monitor. They didn't have the benefit a lot of fans had when they came home from the game. They were able to go on our site and watch the replay of the last few seconds over and over again. They had it. They got one little chance to make that call. It's very difficult in that situation, knowing was there enough time, was there not. I just wish they wouldn't have called. The technical was, to me, is
the difference in the game.
Far out reaches anything else in terms of the foul or not a foul. The technical really changed the scope of the game.
And you have not, and I haven't either, right? Talked to the official who made that call?
No.
I haven't either, so I don't know what the mindset was. We're really not even sure if it was actually on Rich Hurley. It may have been on somebody on the bench.
Yeah, I was under the impression, because I watched the tape and I looked at him, and he was already addressing his players. If he said anything, it would have been on the ground, and I didn't see it.
With his back to the official.
Yeah. So he said he was surprised. I talked to people around that side, and they said they didn't think it was on him either. So, but regardless of that, Roger, it doesn't make any difference. In that situation, I don't care what you're talking about, a high school game, a college game, or an NBA championship game. You don't call a technical foul in that situation. You have to be bigger than the situation. You have to understand that it looked like initially they were going to call a foul against CBA. That was the reaction that a lot of people had. You have to understand that. You have to understand the gravity of the game. The emotions are running high. You have to be bigger and not call it technical.
Yeah, we are both 100% in agreement with that. So CBA is one of the teams that is moving on, and a great story with Dave Vilmel. They're good every year. Is what degree of good? Now I'll ask you, are they good enough to get a win on Saturday against Proctor Utica? That's who they will play Saturday night. The Brothers of CBA in the regionals at HBCC at 8 p.m. What do you know about that matchup, and does it favor CBA?
I would, say I think it's CBA based on experience would be a slight favorite. Utica Proctor is kind of the same team, Roger. The fact that they don't really rely on one player, they're very balanced. They have 7 players that are averaging at least 6 points a game. Their leading score is about 14, which is very similar to what Joe Cron and Shazlai kind of provide CBA. They shoot about they make about 5 threes per game. They won against Henninger in the Section 3 championship game. That was 46-44 the other night. And Henninger is the team that played against Troy at the Times Union Center on December 31st, and Troy beat them by 10. So I think if form holds, if CBA plays their kind of game, I would give them a slight edge, given the fact that the game's in Hudson Valley, and given the fact that a lot of their players now have a lot of experience in this kind of spot.
All right, let's stay with the boys here. What other boys team that have won a Section 2 championship that you think can make a deep run on the road to a possible state championship?
I think it's Waterville. Last year they ran into a Potsdam team that was ranked at the top of the state, and they got wiped out. But they brought in, have a guy to come back to Waterville from Bishop McGinn and Antoine Johnson. He provides them another athlete. I mean, they really have 4 dynamic players that could really play with anybody, right? They can play with AA teams. 2 of them have played at the AA level with Tyler McLeod and Antoine Johnson. And Potsdam got upset last night in their regional against Plattsburgh. So Waterville's going to be playing a team in Plattsburgh that's unranked at this point in the season. I think they're in a very good spot. Looking at their bracket, looking at the rest of the field, I think they have as good a chance as anybody from our boys teams that are still alive to get to the state championship.
Jordan McBride from Mechanicville continues to have a very impressive senior season. Had a big game again last night. 21 of his 31 points coming in the second half. He had some help, and they put it to Seton Catholic last night.
Yeah, it was Seton Catholic was having a hard enough time just getting into their offense. Right, they had 12 turnovers in the first quarter. It was just a comedy of errors. They just could not deal with Mechanicville's speed. Mechanicville actually was outsized in every position, including Seton Catholic had a 6'11" center. They just went. It was like Loyola Marymount trying to play against Princeton, and Princeton couldn't even make a shot or get the ball into their offense. Mechanicville's really playing at the high level right now, and they're getting contributions not just from Jordan Gleason. Nate Atalski hit 3 threes. They have cousins on there. Ryan McBride's his cousin. They also have Adam Dunn, who's another cousin. 3 cousins, very, very dynamic. And Brian Richardson's done a great job with that team. They don't have any size. They're not going to wow you with athleticism, but boy, they play really sound basketball. They play together, and really, when you're outsized almost every time, you have to be a good defensive team. They are that.
All right, let's move over and we're talking with James Allen, high school sports writer extraordinaire from the Times Union. Let's move over to the girls' side, and before we get to the AA, you said the Waterville boys are going to be a dangerous team here in the postseason. Can you say ditto for the Waterville girls?
I can. And, what's going to be interesting, Roger, this weekend is they're actually playing another undefeated team. Saranac is a northern team. Usually Section 7, 10 teams at the state level don't do all that well, but this is a team that has had some success. And Watervliet, really, when you think about they don't have seniors. I mean, they have seniors, but they don't have their best players are not their seniors. Their three best players are juniors. Two of those three have been on the varsity and starting for 4 years. Alea Demand, the point guard, outstanding player.
Yeah, she's very good.
Very dynamic, knows how to, she's not a great shooter, but she knows how to score. And she's a very good distributor, excellent at the defensive end, and she's a real tough matchup for anybody. And then you have the two inside players in Michaela DeGear and Lashana Tolliver, and they're as good a low post players as we have in Section 2, where regardless of level, they get it done. They both average a double-double. Between the two of them, they're averaging almost 30 rebounds a game. And when you have that kind of combination and that much experience, they were very stung by how they played in their Class B championship game in Section 2 last year. They lost to Losing Valley. But they had been on a run. Before that, they had won 4 Section 2 titles. A few of those kids have been on it. I really like the way they're playing. If they can get through this game, there's no question they can be a force in the state tournament.
All right, well, we're sitting in Colonie tonight, so I guess we should probably talk about the Colonie girls, and it's a good story because they were just kind of getting through the season, nothing really great. Sydney Rosales, we've talked about her many, many times, and all of a sudden, man, they have stepped up playing some great basketball. Sydney Rosales playing great basketball, and Heather Fury has a very confident team right now. Give me your take on Colonie girls.
Well, they're very balanced, Roger, and how they've been able to have success all year long was 4 different players have been, averaging about the same amount. Whether it's Rosales, Ashley Lagos, who's a senior, Welch, who's a junior, and Kwani Young, who's been their low post player. Between the 3 or 4 of them, they've taken turns being the team leader. They've averaged between 11 and 12 points between the 4 of those players. And they kind of had this really kind of under the radar season because the 2 big matchups they had in AA, they lost against Shen by 4 points. They shot very, very poorly. And then the game that they played against Shaker, they got to overtime and they lost by 10. They beat April Park 3 times, but they didn't really have that signature win until they got to the playoffs. And boy, talk about playing your best basketball at the right time. You play in the sectionals, you win 3 games, and win the 3 games the way that they did to beat Catholic High. Then the huge win against the defending champion Shaker. Not only did they beat him, but even by 17. And Albany was playing a really good basketball for them to win that game. And Rosales absolutely took over the AA championship game.
Signature game for her.
Huge game. I mean, she had 2 bombs, 2 huge threes. She has the best shooting range of any player, boy or girl, in Section 2, and it's not close. I mean, she has an effortless three-pointer. She can take a step-back 3. She's 5'10". She's going to Siena. She's already committed orally. She did that before her junior season even started. She's a dynamic talent. When she's playing like that, they're very good. But that said, Roger, the team that they're playing has the #1 player in the United States, Brianna Stewart.
I heard about this girl, so this will be a tall order for the Colonie girl.
She's 6'4". She's the Naismith Award winner. She's the Gatorade New York State Player of the Year. She's the USA Today National Player of the Year. She's on the national team for the last 3 years. And I'm not saying the national team of her age level. She's on the national team. She's the #1 recruit in the country. She's going to UConn. She already committed as a junior. She's averaging 25 points, 18 rebounds. She handles the ball better than anybody on the floor. Even as good as Rosales is as a point guard, she can handle the ball as a point guard. She's been here. She played the Federations last year. They won the state championship. They're #1 in the state. They play a national level schedule. They're
very tall order. And Colonie's not a big team.
No.
There's not a lot of size.
Young's about 5'10". Rosales is 5'10". Lagos is 5'9".
And this girl's
about 5'8".
6'4".
She's 6'4".
6'4".
And she'll take the ball on a rebound, Roger, and go off the court. And people try to steal the ball from her. I mean, the reason why Gina Ariema has been on recruiting her for 4 years. She's as good as we have in the United States.
Well, I'm anxious to see which teams can win a state championship this year in high school basketball. But you think we have a shot here with some of the teams that you just mentioned?
I think so. We didn't really mention April Park. And Eagle Park's, this is a third straight trip for them.
Sean Organ does a great job over there.
He really has, and last year's team had 11 losses. They were 7-11 in the regular season, coming off the year before where they'd won the state and the Federation Championship. They had all new starters. They had scuffled their way through the Suburban Council season, but when they got to the end of the year, they really turned it on. They lost in the state championship game last year, but their entire team from last year is now back this year. They lost 5 games in the regular season. None of them were to Class A competition. They lost to Shen close, they lost to Shaker close, they lost to Colonie 3 times by single digits, 2 of them by 4 points or less. Now they're getting to the state level. They're playing, interestingly enough, they're playing Janesville DeWitt on the girls' side. Then this is their first trip in a long period of time. I think Eagle Park is another team that can make it to the Final Four. When they get there, they have a ton of experience and some veteran leaders to rely on, and Brooke O'Shea, Bridget Carney, and Julia May, the point guard.
Well, James, you do it all so well, man. Have fun with the rest of this on the road to the state championship. And you can read about the high school coverage in the Times-Union, and you can watch for it, of course, on News Channel 13 live at 11, as we'll have complete coverage all weekend long. James, thanks for coming out with us tonight.
Not a problem.
That's Big Game James Allen from the Times-Union. We are still looking for ranters. Ryan, what are we up to? 6. We have 6 ranters. Remember the prize tonight. It is Yankee Trails bus trip. Yankee tickets included